dashboard up. How's everyone today? Me myself, I'm doing okay. Yesterday was kind of rough. My brother has stroke a few months back, and yesterday was kind of a rough day. He just was having problems all over the place. We had to call the EMTs. Yeah, his blood pressure was, you know, through the roof. So I'm tired. My muscles ache, but yeah, I'm getting by. I'm okay. Anyway, can't say it's a really big show. Again, the hardest part about being someone who reports on entertainment is during a pandemic. There's not much entertainment to really talk about. Not overloaded with news. So yeah, but we get by. We find things to put in the dock. So as it were. So we'll get started here in a minute. All right.
COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. Symptoms of this respiratory disease may include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. These symptoms may show up 2 to 14 days after exposure. If you are experiencing these symptoms and have come into contact or are in an area with an ongoing outbreak, please call a hotline and/or consult with a physician. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Thank you.
All right. Now let's move our stuff over to the second monitor. Put our notes on the main monitor. And I'm touching my face, but the only person who's been around me is me and my wife. And we wash our hands. So. All right. Tonight, Obi-Wan gets a new writer, Marina Sirtis has a virtual party, and we remember a lot of people. All that and more on this edition of Multiverse Tonight. Comic books, sci-fi, fantasy, and more. If you're looking for a roundup of geeky news, you're in the right place. This is Multiverse Tonight. And here's your host, Thomas Townley. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 70 of Multiverse Tonight. I'm your host, Thomas Townley. So, I hope you're doing well. You know, I'm doing well. I'm doing okay. We in Kansas are still under a stay-at-home order, but my job is considered essential. You know, being in working at Walmart and all. So off I go 5 nights a week, and in a couple of weeks, I'll be moving to the day shift. So my recording schedule is probably going to change. For those of you outside the U.S. who think our leadership has totally botched this, you're absolutely right. You know, if we had a better, if we had better leadership, we would have gotten on this right at the start. But you go to war, so to speak, with the army you have, not the army you want. So we're muddling through. We're making the best of what we have. I would like to again suggest that you frequent your local comic book store if they have any kind of way you can go there right now. Yeah. If not, contact them. There are a few places that you can just donate. One, go to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. They're a good resource to find out how to help out comic book creators and comic book shops right now. And also suggest a company like TKO Comics. If you order from them and tell them of the comic book shop that you shop at, they will donate 50% of what they make on that book to the comic book shop of your choice. So that's kind of a nice thing. But of course, that's comic books. This is Star Trek and sci-fi news. So let's get on with the news. Now we start Star Wars news today with The Rise of Skywalker. It could have been a completely different movie several times over. The final Skywalker saga film was written by one writer, scrapped, and then rewritten again. Well, hints of what that movie would have been coming out these past few weeks, including in a book called The Art of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. It's out now. It has different takes on Rey, Ben Solo, and an early scene from the movie. The scene would have had Rey encountering a giant serpent in the forest near the Rebel base. Luke Fisher. I'm just going to do this whole section over again. Hold on. We start off Star Wars news today with The Rise of Skywalker. It could have been a completely different movie several times over. The final Skywalker saga film was written by one writer, scrapped, and then rewritten again. Well, hints of what that movie could have been dripping out these past few weeks, including a book called The Art of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. That's out now. It has different takes on Rey, Ben Solo, and an early scene from the movie. This scene would have had Rey encountering a giant serpent in the forest near the Rebel base. Luke Fisher, creature concept designer, said about it, quote, "Initially, Rey was to encounter the serpent in the surrounding forest of the Rebel base. Upon presenting a round of designs, JJ informed us that it was no longer in the script. But he would look at the designs anyway. He really liked the direction I'd taken with the serpent designs, and joked that maybe they should write it back into the script. I presumed that was the last we'd see of the serpent. Sometime later, we got word that it had indeed been written back in, this time in an underground cave system." Unquote. The book is out now, as I said, and retails for around $28. Now, Solo, a Star Wars story, didn't do so well. It kind of limped along at the box office, got generally poor reviews, so bad that the Star Wars one-off series of films were just axed entirely. But would it surprise you that a social media campaign has been spurred called hashtag make Solo 2 happen. And Ron Howard has been quoted as saying that a sequel wouldn't be out of the question. Now, would anyone really want to see that sequel? You know, I didn't think Solo: A Star Wars Story was half bad. You know, it was pretty interesting. You know, so maybe not. The Obi-Wan series has been yanked back for retooling. As a new writer, Variety reports that Joby Harold has been sent in to replace Hossein Amani. Harold has previously been executive producer of John Wick 3 and wrote Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Ewan McGregor is still slated to reprise the role as Ben Kenobi. Now, no additional details have been presented, so, we're still kind of in a wait and see on this Obi-Wan series. Hopefully it'll come out before the end of this decade. Now, hold on here. You're absolutely right, Darksage. They weren't ever going to please everyone. Well, sorry to squash you like the Emperor squashing the rebellion, but it ain't gonna happen. According to writer Jonathan Kasdan, the writer took to Twitter in response to a tweet about it, saying, quote, "Don't think anyone's pursuing a Solo sequel at the moment, at Kenobi JJ. I think a feature at this point would be a tough sell, and the D+ Star Wars slate is really pretty packed. All shows I'm looking forward to. My work on Indy is long over, but I'm excited. There's forward movement." He also followed up on why it couldn't just be converted into a show for Disney Plus, saying, quote, "Certainly appreciate, but hard to advocate for, and here's why. With multiple Star Wars series in development / production, set at different points in the timeline, without knowing what stories they're telling, and I don't, hard to know what a Solo series would even be with so much on the way," unquote. So in other words, it's not likely. You're better off kissing a Wookiee. Now, while we're here, let's talk a little business news. With the coronavirus putting Disney's business in carbonite, Disney's chairman, Bob Iger, has announced that he will be willing to forego his salary, while new Disney CEO Bob Chapek will take just half of his salary. Now, if you're wondering what his salary is, an email obtained by The Hollywood Reporter puts Chapek's base salary at roughly $2.5 million, with an annual target bonus of $7.5 million and an annual long-term incentive grant of $15 million. Iger's pay last year was around $47.5 million. On one hand, I totally applaud this. I think it's the right move, but I think Chapek could cut his pay to just $1 million or so and make sure the Disney employees get every dime they deserve, as this crisis probably will last for months and months. So they're not going to be opening the Disney theme parks, in the immediate future. They're not going to be have these people work. So give that money to those employees. Anyway, let's go on to the Star Trek news. Star Trek Picard is done for the season. I loved it. I loved it. Put Data's demise in Nemesis in context, and I think it was a good ending that Brent Spiner can finally put that character to bed. However, for some, the show has been controversial. They've been unhappy with the state of the Federation at this point, with drug use, saying that the characterization of Picard is wrong, etc., etc. Now, in an interview with Variety, showrunner Michael Chabon told them he knows that the show is divisive and he doesn't mind at all. Responding to a question about the fan response, he said that, quote, "It's been pretty exciting. I think inevitably I spent a fair amount of time looking around on Twitter and Reddit, trying to get a sense of people's responses. Twitter's kind of a horrible place, too, so I wasn't really encouraged to spend too much time looking around. But then I came up with this forum, setting up an Instagram story once a week to take people's questions. One of my children showed me how you can use Instagram in that way, and that's been really fun for me. As someone who's spent a fair amount of time over the years on Memory Alpha, looking on Reddit, enjoying the way people enjoy Star Trek Online, it's been so fun to see the show getting absorbed into the kind of greater corpus of Star Trek. What makes me feel good is when I see it being treated, in a sense, the same by fans as previous versions of the show, unquote. By the way, did you know that he is a fan? In fact, he hated the first season of The Next Generation when it premiered. It wasn't until the second season that he started to see how good it could be, and he knows where the haters are coming from, saying, quote, "As someone who's watched a lot of Star Trek, you're comparing something that you have now seen once with huge expectations to something that in some cases you've seen hundreds of times. It takes a while for you to shed our expectations, your biases, your prejudices. I was prejudiced in favor of Mr. Spock, Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, and it took a long time to lose that," unquote. And in the interview, he also talks about how the fan response doesn't factor into the prep for Season 2. He says in the interview that Season 2 will be different from Season 1, and that they've been emboldened by the success of Season 1. Now, folks, I could go on and on about this article, but it would be pointless for me to just read it to you. So be sure to head on over to Variety.com and read it. It's a very interesting look at the first season of Picard and the man behind it. And I'll have a link to it in our show notes. And I promise this week to actually get the show notes up. I will admit that the last 2 episodes I forgot to put the show notes up. So everything will get put up. Trust me. Patrick Stewart was a guest on the official Star Trek Picard podcast and talked about Picard's state of mind and his future post, the first season. He told host Dominic Patton, quote, "He has no idea where he is at because he has no idea what the future now might hold for him, which is what I think makes the matter of Season 2 so exciting. He's pulled off a very, very successful mission through the first 10 episodes of Season 1, and he feels that therefore he can be certain that his abilities have not become fractured. His skills as an ambassador, as a negotiator, as a decision maker are still present. Given that he can bring to them the right sort of mental attitude and focus, I think he is actually excited by the ignorance that he feels about the future. He doesn't know, and he would rather be at the point of undertaking something he doesn't know anything about than sitting on the veranda in his vineyard in France," unquote. Very interesting. Picard right now is essentially living on borrowed time. He's been granted a few more years of life, so what will he do with the time that he has left? I too doubt that he'll go back to the vineyards in France. I'm sure his 2 Romulan friends will be happy to keep running the vineyard for him. Now, in that same podcast, Akiva Goldsman gave an update on where they are on the plot of Season 2, saying that they're still working it out. Michael Chabon, also in an article with The Hollywood Reporter, talked about how thrilled he was to write for Whoopi Goldberg's Guinan, saying, quote, "It's amazing. I've gone back to rewatch some of the more key Guinan episodes from The Next Generation, the major Picard and Guinan moments. She's such an amazing actor. I can't wait." Season 2 is just going to be interesting. So you have the addition of Whoopi Goldberg's character, which I'm sure she's going to be kind of the catalyst character for the season. The reason why he's boldly going. You have the crew totally in place, so I'm very excited to see it. Whenever we get it. Now, the COVID-19 virus has ruined many a celebration. Social distancing has meant that weddings have had to be held with 10 or fewer people. Funerals have to become a very intimate affair, and birthdays have had to become drive-bys or just done in cyberspace. And so, when Marina Sirtis, who just celebrated her 65th birthday, couldn't have her castmates from Next Generation together to celebrate, the cast came together via Zoom to wish her a happy birthday. Picard Stewart, LeVar Burton, Brent Spiner, Jonathan Frakes, Michael Dorn, Gates McFadden, and Will Wheaton all were on the call. Marina posted a screenshot of the meeting on Twitter with the caption, "I have the best friends in the world. Considering everything, this was the best birthday present," unquote. Now, Gates McFadden also added on her Twitter, quote, "Different shot, but same amazing group. What a blast it was to chat away and laugh. Felt so good." And LeVar wrote on his, "Overcoming the distance, hashtag family," unquote. Well, very happy birthday to Marina Sirtis. You know, she's always been, my favorite character. She's been my sister's favorite character. I mean, she's, and she's a great lady in person. I've, met her a couple times. So, happy birthday. Now, turning to other shows other than Picard, Jonathan Frakes, speaking with Star Trek Magazine, talked about Season 3 of Discovery and, quote, "Discovery feels to me like my home show now. I just finished Episode 3, Season 3. We're far in the future now, and Burnham has been separated from the Discovery crew. And then they reunite. I was talking with Sonequa. We were talking and acting. She's one of those actors not unlike Picard, unlike Patrick, where you can give a note and it's like a fine musician. It's just enough to get in tune on that particular beat or that microtransaction, as opposed to when you give a note to someone who doesn't have the technique and they drop everything else and only play the note you've just given them. Sonequa and Patrick, and most of these actors have that technique. I said to her, this character is so appealing and interesting and complicated and always has been, but there's a little more joy now. Now, she said to me, because Burnham is no longer driven by fear and guilt, I thought, wow, unquote. Now, it sounds to me like we're going to get a very different Michael Burnham character this season. Yeah. And we're still, of course, waiting for that. Now, about the challenges, the show's new setting, 930 years from the last season, Mr. Frakes said, quote, "They're also thrilled. That's the adventure. Technically, financially, emotionally. You can create worlds that nobody has seen before because you're not limited to anything. That's freeing, but it's also completely exhausting because even a show this big has to stay on a budget. Everything can't be created digitally. Some of the stuff has to be real. We just have to have some things you can touch in the future. Obviously, there could be a lot of stuff that's holographic or where your mind is connected to something. These are all things we know are coming just from the way we use our iPhones to run our lives and plan our trips. So finding a future that's futuristic but is practical to shoot has been fascinating. You can't get caught up in the technology. It is about maintaining a basic core of why we're there, which is to tell emotionally compelling stories. That's been the driving force, as opposed to the other way around. Nobody is making the mistake of, this has to look cool. It's great when things look cool, but you don't give a damn about the people or what's happening. It doesn't matter." Unquote. Now, Star Trek Magazine issue number 75 is out right now with that interview, so order it today. Now, let's go on to the geek news. Now, the geek news starts off with Netflix. Much loved and needed, as it is today, but it's still business. And Variety has confirmed that both V-Wars and October Faction have been canceled by the streaming service. Both shows were produced by IDW Entertainment. Now, some good news for IDW, though, as Lock and Key has been given the green light for a second season. You know, I personally still need to work on watching season 1 of Lock and Key. Part of the problem about not being one of those non-essential employees, I don't get the luxury of staying home and just binging TV. So pretty much, I'm just going to have to, grin and bear it. Now, this year has turned into a real crap fest for theater owners. Pretty much the whole spring and fall movie season is a complete loss. Well, good news, the National Association of Theater Owners and the Pioneer Assistance Fund has created an initial $2.4 million fund to help provide financial assistance to movie theater owners who are in a pickle with this pandemic. The two organizations have said that the first part of this plan will be a grant program that will provide a stipend to theater workers that meet specific criteria, such as having worked a minimum of 5 years. It sounds very, very good, very helpful. Although I think a minimum of 5 years is a little much. I think that should probably be cut down to, maybe a year. Those people should get at least something. Because do you know many theater workers who have been in working in theaters for more than 5 years? Personally, when you go to the theater, I go to the theater. There seems to be a lot of turnover at a lot of these theaters. Anyway, speaking of films, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the people who bring us the Golden Globe Awards, is altering their film eligibility rules for the 2021 awards because of the pandemic. With theaters shuttered until such time as this is under control, the Golden Globes has suspended the rule that film must be screened for HFPA members at a third-party facility in the greater Los Angeles area. Instead, according to the article in Variety, quote, the new guidelines state that distributors must contact the HFPA to arrange a screening date on the official HFPA calendar that meets the timing requirements of the Golden Globes eligibility rules. Distributors must provide all HFPA members with a screening link or a DVD copy of the film on the home date that the screening is scheduled so that members may view it at home. It will be in effect from March 15th through April 30th, 2020. Unquote. Now, this is kind of very similar to how the Oscars are generally picked. So far, the Oscars haven't announced any changes for the next year, so watch this space. If something does come up, I'll let you know. Now, this is going to be tough. A lot of sad news. A lot of people have passed away. So bear with me. Classic cult classic horror director Stuart Gordon has passed away at the age of 72 from organ failure. Gordon is best known for writing and directing Reanimator and From Beyond. He also wrote Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and produced Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Now, he also wrote 1993's Body Snatchers and wrote, directed, and produced Space Truckers and much, much more. He is survived by his wife, Carolyn Purdy, and his 3 children. Bond girl, Honor Blackman, who starred as Pussy Galore in the James Bond classic Goldfinger, has passed away at the age of 94. She also starred in the first 2 seasons of the British series The Avengers as Kathy Gale, but quit to appear in Goldfinger. She also starred as Hera in 1963's Jason and the Argonauts, and was an accomplished judo expert, publishing a book in 1966 called Honor Blackman's Book of Self-Defense. Honor was married twice and had 2 adopted children and 4 grandchildren. She died of natural causes. The coronavirus has claimed Star Wars actor Andrew Jack. Andrew, who was also a British dialect coach, worked with over 200 actors, including Robert Downey Jr., Pierce Brosnan for his James Bond movies, and he also created the Middle-earth accents and taught Elvish and Black speech for the Lord of the Rings movies, and so much more. He can be seen in the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, as Kellyanne Emmett, and voiced Moloch in Solo: A Star Wars Story. At the time of his passing, he was working on The Batman. His widow, Gabrielle Rogers, wrote on Twitter about his passing, quote, "We lost a man today. Andrew Jack was diagnosed with coronavirus 2 days ago. He was in no pain, and he slipped away peacefully, knowing that his family were all with him." Unquote. He was 76 years old. The coronavirus also claimed another actor who's appeared in Star Wars, actor Jay Benedict. Among his first roles ever was that of Deke, one of Luke Skywalker's friends. However, that scene ended up on the cutting room floor. He also played the role of Newt's father in Aliens and had an appearance in The Dark Knight Rises. He was 68 years old. Also passed away from coronavirus is Lee Fierro, who is best known for playing Mrs. Kittner, the mother of the second Jaws victim in the classic movie. Now, she died away from complications from the virus, according to the Martha's Vineyard Times. Lee was initially a resident of Martha's Vineyard, but had been living in an assisted care facility in Ohio these past few years when she died. She was 91 years old. And that brings us to the end of the sci-fi news. And be sure to check us out on social media. We're at Twitter, at Multiverse Tom. We're also on Facebook and Instagram as well. And if you'd like to contribute some money, please visit mtpodcast.com to go to our Coffee, Patreon, and now Glow.fm links as well. And just go to Multiverse Tonight and hit the Support Me button at the top of the page. And be sure to visit multiversetonight.com and check out the affiliate marketplace links, the link to the TeePublic store, show notes, and so much more. Now, if you're a subscriber, please be sure to share us with your friends. And if you're brand new to the show, please be sure to subscribe and leave us with some feedback and let us know how we're doing in general. Special thanks to Shane Ivers for our intro music and Lobo Loco for our outro theme music. Thanks for watching the sci-fi edition of Multiverse Tonight. We'll be back in just a couple days with the comic book edition. Now, please exit the universe in an orderly fashion. Good night. Multiverse Tonight is a production of Half Baked Genre Productions. Copyright 2020. All rights reserved. Okay, one down, one to go. Sunshine on my shoulder makes me sloppy. That was interesting. Well, at least as lifting my brother was easy. It was I was doing it right because I'm actually just sore in my shoulders and upper arms rather than my back. So yeah, so at least that was good. I switch my mini deck here. Okay. Welcome to Deep Breathing with Thomas. Do you enjoy deep breathing? I do. Especially on days like these. Technically, this should be the last week I work nights. But so far, we're not, complete yet. I just got my paperwork in yesterday. So far, they have not changed my schedule. Alright, let's hit record and do it once more, because I got other crap to do today. Tonight, the comics industry is in peril and everything's been pushed back. On this edition of Multiverse Tonight, comic books, sci-fi, fantasy, and more. If you're looking for a roundup of geeky news, you're in the right place. This is Multiverse Tonight. And here's your host, Thomas Townley. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 71. I'm your host, Thomas Townley. Now, I'll admit right here that the comic edition is a bit of a struggle these days. There's not very much new comic product out there. There's very little TV or movie products. So, you just put together what news items you have. Now, as I mentioned in episode 70, I'll be taking a new job at my night job, and I'll be moving to the day shift. After 7 years, it can be done. Now, I don't know exactly what my schedule will be, so be sure to watch Multiverse Tonight's social media accounts for any changes on when I put this program out live, or if I have to change the release dates going forward. Now, by the way, if you're on Twitch on the weekends, I've started to stream Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's a very late night stream. It'll be pretty much like midnight Central Time here in the United States. So if you want to stay up late for an hour or so and talk and watch me play, I even got a new controller to play with. So if you feel free, come in, watch me. Anyway, let's start with some DC comic news. Marvel and Disney Marvel and DC, in a rare show of cooperation, will be delaying the release of digital comic books for at least a week while brick and mortar stores are shut down due to the social distancing measures. Now, this just comes days after Diamond Distributors announced that it would not be shipping any product until further notice. As to how long this will continue, that's completely unknown. And if you're a comic book store owner in the United States and you need to know how the United States government can help you keep your doors open, they just passed a relief bill not too long ago. Go to the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund website. They've started a resource page to help you out. Now, while we at home wait for any new product, why not buy every DC comic ever made in just one collection? Sotheby's announced that it will be auctioning the DC Complete, the Ian Levine collection, a collection that includes every DC comic published between 1935 and 2016. The collection has more than 40,000 comics and is now available to be viewed online at the Sotheby's website. Now, from one apocalypse to another, comicbook.com has learned that the DC animated movie Justice League Dark Apocalypse War will serve as the capstone to the Justice League animated universe that was started with 2013's Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox. The movie features Matt Ryan's John Constantine, Jerry O'Connell's Superman, Tony Todd's Darkseid, and Rosario Dawson's Wonder Woman with Rainn Wilson's Lex Luthor. The movie is set for digital release on May 5th, with a Blu-ray release on May 19th. Zack Snyder, during a live commentary for Batman v Superman, that seems to be a hot thing to do right now, is do watch-alongs online, revealed several key points. This is a long article, so I'm not going to read every single one, but here's at least 5 of them. First, that every shot in the film was storyboarded, so many storyboards that he has them in 4 volumes, and that he encouraged the crew to look at the storyboards rather than the script. 2, Ben Affleck got in trouble with the stunt supervisor for the way he hopped out of the helicopter in the opening scene, and that Amy Adams does not like flying in helicopters. 3, the collapse of Wayne Tower was intentionally reminiscent of 9/11, and it was important for the, quote, psychic trauma, unquote, to Bruce Wayne, a secondary trauma source only to the death of his parents. Also, the massive amounts of damage sustained by Metropolis during the Superman Zod fight was because, quote, I don't like the idea that there's no consequence, that these characters get to knock around in our world and don't create and solve giant problems, unquote. 4, Superman's appearance in Africa was originally going to be a much bigger scene, but Snyder decided to go simpler. Snyder also saw that a 5-movie arc, but dead is dead. Jimmy Olsen was never going to come back. Quote, the ones that die off for a reason. Hopefully they teach us something as they go, unquote. Now, Olsen's death would have had larger consequences if the arc had continued. Lastly, Mr. Snyder said that he was interested in exploring how Superman's mortality is perceived and how it changes when it becomes tied to foreign wars and unpolitical hearing. Quote, Superman, with his clean morality, having to deal with these gray areas is what this whole thing is about, unquote. Now, again, there were a lot more points, and I'll have a link to it in their show notes. It's part of an article on the Hollywood Reporter. It's fascinating. It's a very interesting look. So I encourage you to read more about it. Dun-dun-dun. A little business news. Warner Media, the corporate entity that has the life and death of DC literally in its hands, has named a new CEO, former Hulu CEO John Killar. he will be taking over for John Stinky, who is moving over to the role of president and COO of parent company AT&T. Killar will be reporting to Stinky starting on May 1st. Stinky said about Mr. Killar, quote, "Adding Jason to the talented Warner Media family as we launch HBO Max in May gives us the right management team to strategically position our leading portfolio of brands, world-class talent, and rich library of intellectual property for future growth," unquote. Now, Killar is well suited to oversee HBO Max, being the founding CEO of Hulu from 2007 to 2013. Well, good job. I wish the best. Now, let's talk a little Marvel news. Professor X, James McAvoy, is helping to save the United Kingdom in real life. The actor has donated £275, which is roughly $340,000 American, to the UK Health Service for protective gear desperately needed for this coronavirus. He donated the money to the crowdfunding campaign Mask for Heroes, which was set up by a group of doctors in the United Kingdom to raise money for masks, visors, and gloves. Mr. McAvoy's money pushed the total so far to £700,000, roughly $868,000 American, more than 3 times the original goal. In a video on Instagram, the actor said, quote, "We've all heard stories about doctors and nurses having to buy their own personal protective equipment from the internet or DIY stores, and the products aren't good enough, and frankly, neither is that situation," he said in the video. Not only does it put the doctors and nurses at risk of contracting COVID-19 themselves, but it puts them at a higher risk of passing it on to their patients and their patient's family and giving them COVID-19. This situation is truly urgent and the time is of the essence." Unquote. Now, McAvoy also took time to praise the healthcare workers at the NHS who said we're fighting a war against COVID-19, saying, quote, "Thank you so much to the NHS for everything you've done for me in my life. You've been there since the day I was born. You saved my life in the past, and who knows, you may save my life again in the future. Now, I'm so glad we're trying to raise some money to help save your lives going forward," unquote. Now, good job, Professor X. And for those of you listening in the United Kingdom, stay safe. And if you would, drop me a line. Let me know how you're doing. I would be fascinated to get a perspective from across the pond. Now, sad news here, a bit. The Black Widow movie will be doing the coronavirus shuffle and will be heading to theaters on November 6th, which was the original release date for Marvel's The Eternals movie, which has been pushed back. However, where it's been pushed back to, we won't know yet. Also pushed back was Ryan Reynolds' comedy Free Guy. It moved from July 3rd to December 11th. Indiana Jones 5 is moving from 2021 to 2022. The Disney animated movie Soul is set for June 19th. The live-action Mulan is now due July 24th. SpongeBob, Sponge on the Run, is scheduled for July 31st. Wonder Woman 84 is now set for August 14th. Bill and Ted Face the Music will come out a week later on the 24th. And Monster Hunter is scheduled for Labor Day weekend. That is, unless they get pushed back again, which is a big thing. Or they could be moved to another platform, as Disney's Artemis Fowl movie has been moved to Disney Plus, bypassing the theater run altogether. Who knows? This might have been this might be a good move. We'll have to wait and see how widely the Artemis Fowl movie is received. Marvel Comics wants to give you something to keep you busy while you're waiting around the house. Free digital comics. All you need to access these comics is the Marvel Unlimited via the app or the website. Now, the comics can be accessed until May 4th without the need for payment info or a trial subscription. Now, comics in this collection include Avengers vs. X-Men, Civil War, Volume 1 of Black Panther, the X-Men Milestones Dark Phoenix Saga, Avengers Volume 1, Final Fantastic Four Volume 1, Captain America Winter Soldier Ultimate, and several more. So go there and check that out. Hachette is putting out Marvel Comics retrospective, The Marvel Art of George Perez in December. Now, George is known for his multiple runs on the Avengers from 1970 to 1990. He also penciled the first part of the Infinity Gauntlet limited series. Perez retired from comics in January of 2019. Now, here's a description of that book. Quote, celebrating the artistic legacy of a true Marvel Comics legend, George Perez first wowed fans in the 1970s, building a phenomenal reputation as a super team illustrator without peer on Avengers, Inhumans, and Fantastic Four. His talents graced the superhero action of Marvel 2-in-1, the martial arts mayhem of Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, and the monster madness of Man-Wolf in Creatures on the Loose. Years later, Perez demonstrated his cosmic grandeur by wiping out half the Marvel Universe along with Thanos in Infinity Gauntlet. As the Avengers made a heroic turn in 1998, so too did Perez, joining writer Kurt Busiek to usher Earth's mightiest into a new era of greatness. Nobody can draw an army of heroes in a single image better than George Perez. Unquote. Well, sounds interesting. I wonder if my friend Andy will get it. I wonder. Finally, in Marvel news, The Hollywood Reporter reports that Ant-Man might have found its writer in Rick and Morty writer and co-producer Jeff Loveness. Director Peyton Reed is still set to direct, with Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly set to return as well. According to the sources, the writing has commenced. Now, let's go on to the geek news. See, I told you this episode would be quick. Now, Ryan Reynolds is no stranger to playing a video game character. You know, as I mentioned earlier, his new video game-based movie, Free Guy, has been pushed back. But Variety now reports that the actor is in talks to star in the film adaptation of the classic Don Bluth animated game Dragon's Lair for Netflix. The movie will be produced by Reynolds' Maximum Effort production company, as well as Roy Lee's Vertigo Entertainment, and Trevor Engelson, Don Bluth, Gary Goldman, and John Pomeroy will also be producers. The writers behind the Lego Movie and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Dan and Kevin Hageman, will write the script based on the game. Dragon's Lair tells the story of Dirk the Daring as he attempts to rescue Princess Daphne from the clutches of the dragon Singe and the wizard Mordroc. Yeah, I always liked that game. Oh, I wish I could play it, but, you know, I was nowhere near an arcade at the time. Stephen King's new book, If It Bleeds, will be coming out a week early. The book is a compilation of novellas and will be released on May the 5th. Here's the blurb, quote, from #1 New York Times bestselling author, legendary storyteller, and master of short fiction Stephen King, comes an extraordinary collection of 4 new and compelling novellas: Mr. Harrigan's Phone, The Life of Chuck, Rat, and the title story, If It Bleeds, each pulling readers into intriguing and frightening places. The novella is a form King has returned to over and over again in the course of his amazing career, and many have been made into iconic films, including The Body, Stand By Me, and Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, like Forward Past Midnight, different seasons, and most recently, Full Dark, No Stars. If It Bleeds is a uniquely satisfying collection of longer short fiction by an incomparably gifted writer, unquote. Yeah. I'm not one for reading Stephen King. It's never been my forte. You know, I enjoy the movies. You know, fine. But, you know, he's never been my cup of tea. You know, maybe I should buy this for my wife, because, you know, she's a fan of horror. Anyway, the freshman Fox animated show Duncanville has been handed an order for a second season. The series from Amy Poehler has been doing very well. well, let's call it okay on live TV, but has been doing better on digital platforms. Now, the other new series, Bless the Hearts, has also been given a second season, and Fox has decided that it will be expanding its animated lineup with two new shows, Housebroken and The Great North. So I guess we'll see if those shows are any good. Keep in mind that it's probably looking down the road to replace The Simpsons and Family Guy. These shows are have been on forever, and they need I'm sure they want a ratings hit that can properly replace those shows when those shows finally do take their final call. Now, as I said in the sci-fi edition and earlier in this edition, movies have been pushed back. Well, here's more movies that have been pushed back. The new Minions movie, Minions Rise of Gru, has been pushed back to next year. The movie was originally scheduled for July 2nd of this year, but instead will go 1 year later and go to July 2nd of 2021. Also moved is Illumination's sequel Sing 2, which has been bumped from July 2nd, 2021 to make rooms for the Minions, and will instead come out in Christmas on December 22nd, 2021. That movie bumped the film version of the Broadway musical Wicked from its release date, and it has not been given a new date for rescheduling. Also rescheduled has been Morbius, Uncharted, Peter Rabbit 2, and Ghostbusters Afterlife. The Morbius movie has been moved from July 31st, 2020 to March 19th, 2021. Uncharted went from March 5th, 2021 to October 8th, 2021. Peter Rabbit 2 went from August 7th, 2020 to January 15th, 2021. And Ghostbusters Afterlife, and this one kind of breaks my heart because I was so looking forward to seeing this. But we'll just have to wait just a few months more. It was originally set to open this July 10th. Now it's going to be March 5th, 2021. Your mileage may vary. Lock and Key will be going back for Season 2 on Netflix. The series, based on Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez's IDW comic book, has been picked up according to the show's Twitter account. Now, Variety caught up with co-showrunners Carlton Cuse and Meredith Averill, who told the paper, quote, "We're thrilled to continue the journey of Lock and Key alongside all of our amazing collaborators. We are grateful to Netflix for all their support, especially at this difficult time, and look forward to bringing you the exciting next chapter of our story," unquote. Now, no return date has been announced. Season 11 of Archer has also been pushed back. The season was supposed to start on May 6th. Will be pushed back to sometime later this year. According to a statement from FX Networks, the delay is due to production challenges and scheduling issues. A reminder that this show is made in Georgia, which unfortunately Georgia is one of those southern states that hasn't been, following good social distancing rules, so it's having a tough time right now. I look forward to this show. Met Amber Nash at one of the previous Planet Comic Cons. She was a sweetheart. She was fun. So I guess I can wait. Now, again, with just like in the sci-fi edition, we have a couple of passings to report. First off, this person may not be a comic book celebrity, a sci-fi celebrity, or really a geeky celebrity. But for those of us who watched TV in the 90s, and especially the TV show Wings, we know him as the scumbag owner of Aeromass Airlines in the 1990 Cheers spin-off Wings. Actor David Schramm has passed away. David Schramm was a founding member of the New York-based The Acting Company and made his first appearance on Broadway in 1973. From 1990 to 1997, he played Roy Biggins, the owner of the competing airline to struggling Sandpiper Air, and is the only actor in the show to have appeared in every single episode. He was 73 years old. And sadly, This one was just tragically young. Teen actor Logan Williams, who portrayed young Barry Allen in those flashbacks on The Flash, suddenly passed away at the young age of 16. His co-star and series lead, Grant Gustin, posted a tribute to the actor on Instagram saying, quote, "Just hearing the devastating news that Logan Williams has passed away suddenly. I was so impressed by not only Logan's talent, but his professionalism on set. My thoughts and prayers will be with him and his family during what I'm sure is an unimaginably difficult time for them. Please keep Logan and his family in your thoughts and prayers, doing what has been a strange and trying time for us all. Sending love to everyone." Unquote. That really is a shame. You know. It's dying young is never good. Well, that brings us to the end of the comic book news. Now, be sure to check us out on social media. We're at Twitter at Multiverse Tom. We're also on Facebook and Instagram as well. And if you'd like to contribute some money to our program, please visit mtpodcast.com to go to the Coffee, Patreon, and Glow.fm links as well, and just go over to Multiverse Tonight and hit the Support Me link at the top of the page, and be sure to visit multiversetonight.com to check out the affiliate marketplace links, our TeePublic store link, our show notes, and an occasional column, when the mood hits me. If you're a subscriber, please be sure to share us with your friends. And if you're brand new to the show, please be sure to subscribe and leave us with some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Now, special thanks to Shane Ivers for our intro music and Lobo Loco for the outro music. Thanks for watching the comic book edition of Multiverse Tonight. Now, we'll be back in just a couple of weeks with the sci-fi edition. Now, please, exit the universe in an orderly fashion, wash your hands, and have a good night. Multiverse Tonight is a production of Half-Baked Genre Productions. Copyright 2020. All rights reserved. Wash your hands. Well, if you're watching this later, thank you for watching it. It'll be on Instagram. Oh, it's on Instagram. It'll be up for you to watch later. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching us. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.